So maca is an adaptogen, and what an adaptogen does is it increases your body's resistance to stress, and it does this by regulating, naturally balancing your hormones. Now, basically, your endocrine system is made up of your pituitary gland, your hypothalamus, your thyroid, your adrenals, and basically it's responsible for your hormonal communication in your body. Now, in order to feel your absolute best, you want to make sure that your hormones are released in the proper amounts, the right types of hormones are released in the proper amounts, and your endocrine system is communicating properly, that there's proper hormonal communication. Now, what maca does is it actually, because it's an adaptogen, it actually regulates your hormone system naturally without increasing blood hormone levels. And the way it does this, I always describe the way it works is, let's just say I was at home with my husband and I said, oh, you know what, I feel like vanilla ice cream. Can you get me some? And one of two things happens. Either one is not listening to me, so I get no ice cream at all. Or number two, he's like, oh, I think I heard something about she wanting ice cream or something, so I better get her something before she gets upset. So he brings me chocolate ice cream when I ask for vanilla. So I'm not happy either way. So there was a breakdown in communication, right? So this can happen, in everyday life. There's a breakdown in communication, and things aren't, what you try to intend one thing, something else, somebody hears something else, and there's, everyone gets upset. So there's a breakdown in communication. Now this is what can happen to your body. If your endocrine system isn't communicating properly and your hormones aren't released properly in the right amounts, there's communication breakdown, things go wrong in your body, it's not operating properly, all of a sudden you feel tired, or you feel stressed, or you get ill, your immune system gets suppressed. All these things can happen because of not having proper hormonal communication. Now, let's say me and my husband were both taking maca in the ideal world. He would hear, oh, I would say, oh, I want vanilla ice cream. He'd be like, oh, she wants vanilla ice cream. He'd go to the freezer, get it for me, bring it to me, and I'd be happy. So that's like what, by supplementing with maca, that's what it actually does to your endocrine system. So it lets it talk to each other properly and communicate properly. So there will be proper hormonal communication going on. So that's great. So basically what maca is, it's actually a Peruvian root vegetable. It's actually technically an herb. It just looks like a root. And it's grown high in the Andes of Peru. It's also a great source of protein, complex carbohydrates, B vitamins, especially B1 and B2, which help with energy and stress. And it's also, they call it nature's Viagra as well. Because of the natural hormonal balancing, it can actually boost your libido as well. So that's an extra little bonus. But what it does as well is, because it's an adaptogen, and your adrenals basically sit on top of your kidneys, and they release a hormone called cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So if you're stressed, basically cortisol is released in your body. Now, and it doesn't have to be a big event that happens in your life. It can be like everyday stress. So whether you have, you have a deadline for work that you have to hit, you have to be in 10 places at one time, you have to do laundry and go for a run and try to get to the gym and do all this kind of stuff. If you're a multitasker, who's a multitasker in this room? A few of us are, right? If you're multitasking, your cortisol levels are elevated. When cortisol levels are elevated constantly, our adrenal glands become inflamed. There's excess cortisol kicking in our body. That suppresses our immune system. That sucks energy from our body. It prevents us from sleeping well. So sometimes even people can say, well, you know what? I slept 8 hours and I'm still not, I wake up and I don't feel rested. So if there's excess cortisol kicking in your body and you're under extreme stress, you're not going to go into your deep state of sleep. You're not going to have a good quality sleep. So if you wake up feeling not rested, sometimes it can be too much cortisol kicking. Also, too much cortisol kicking can cause muffin tops. So weight in the abdomen, if you kind of gain weight in your midsection, a lot of times excess stress will do that. And what happens is, when excess cortisol is kicking, there's basically two hormones that are responsible for fat burning. One is the human growth hormone, which is awesome because it has anti-aging benefits as well. It actually increases lean muscle mass and reduces body fat percentage. And then there's glycogen, which is a hormone also responsible for fat burning. It's a great fat burning hormone. Those two hormones will be shut off when there's excess cortisol kicking in your body. So you want to make sure that cortisol levels are managed. And so what maca does is it actually reduces the amount of cortisol in your body and reduces inflammation of your adrenal glands. So really, really good for stress and energy boosting as well. Also, another good energy boosting foods are complex carbohydrates. So things like quinoa, for example. Quinoa is a seed. It's actually, or it's a grain. It's a pseudo grain. They call it a grain because it looks like a grain, it cooks like a grain, it tastes like a grain, so they call it a grain. But it's actually really a seed. And so what that means, it's a complete protein. It's about 18% protein. It's loaded in B vitamins, which are stress busting and energy boosting vitamins. Really rich in complex carbohydrates that are going to give you sustainable energy throughout the day. And they're also rich in fiber. So these types of foods will actually give you sustainable energy. You won't get the spikes and dips in blood sugar level. Hi. Come have a seat. And what I love about quinoa the best is it's probably one of the most low maintenance and versatile grains around. So it actually only takes 15 minutes to cook. You can cook it, add it to boiling water. It's done in 15 minutes, and it'll actually stay in your fridge cooked for up to 5 days. So it's great. You can add it as a breakfast cereal. You can add some like hemp milk or almond milk to it with some cinnamon and some nuts and some fruit and have it as a breakfast cereal. You can use it as a base of a stir fry if you're doing vegetables, store it on top. Use it as a base of a pasta dish. Like I make this awesome omega-rich pesto that I mix with the quinoa, and you can add some sun-dried tomatoes and fresh cherry tomatoes and Kalamata olives, and it makes a delicious little, like almost like a pasta dish. Or you can make a salad out of it, or you can do quinoa cookies. That's one of my favorite recipes. It's actually in my book, but they're so delicious and it's so easy. So if you have extra quinoa cooking in your fridge, and you have bananas that are, if they're really brown and, kind of really, really ripe, and you don't know what to do with them, just mash them up in a bowl. And I love bananas for the reason that they, in baked goods or in desserts, is because they can replace sugar and butter in a recipe because it has the binding feature as well. So if you mash up bananas almost into a paste into a bowl, add a cup of cooked quinoa to that. You can add some quinoa flakes, some coconut flakes to that, and you just mix it up. And you can literally eat it as a breakfast cereal. You get right with a spoon right out of the bowl, or you can, if you want, add some chocolate chips to it, or some raw cacao nibs, or some raisins, whatever you want. Drop it onto cookie sheets and bake it, and you have these delicious quinoa cookies that are awesome. So they make a great snack to last in the afternoon. So I'm actually going to do a little demo for you right now. What we're going to do is we're going to actually make a chocolate mousse that has amazing energy boosting properties. Reason being, it